Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. There'd be few names in the tech sector as well known as IBM, but the IBM of today is vastly different to what it was, say, 30 years ago. The company that's perhaps best known for developing the PC, floppy disk and hard drive has continued to evolve as technology and the demands of customers change. So what's IBM look like today? Nicholas Flood is the Vice President, IBM Technology and Managing Director of IBM Australia. Nicholas, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks very much for having me, Sean.
I want to talk to you about the work you're doing now and going to do in the future. But first, I just want to have a look at the history because, for a technology company, there is not any company with a longer or arguably richer history than IBM, more than 100 years old, more than 90 years in Australia, and it's been involved in some of the biggest technological advancements in the last century. I mean, it played a key role in the Apollo mission, for example.
Sean, that's a great place to begin. So we're very proud of our long history. We're over 112 years old globally this year. But as you referenced, we're actually celebrating our 90th anniversary of continuous operations here in Australia. That's a milestone that we share with two other Australian icons, both the Australian Broadcasting Commission and also the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And it was an absolute delight earlier in the year to bring together some of our clients, past and present, our former IBMers, and also our partner community to commemorate and celebrate that achievement.
So what are some of I mentioned the Apollo mission, so both here and overseas, what are some of those really standout moments that IBM's been involved in?
Sean, I think the best way to describe that, and I love that you started with the Apollo mission, one item that takes pride of place in my office is a photograph from the New York Times that IBM took out to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the moon landing. And really, all of the important points in human history over 112 years have had a contribution by IBM. So I think of the Apollo landings that you described, the birth of the ATM network around the world, the airline booking system, hotel reservation systems, and increasingly here in Australia, a lot of the systems that underpin the Australian Immunisation Register and indeed a lot of the core banking platforms are built upon IBM technology and then complemented through IBM consulting capability.
Okay, so it's quite an incredible history. Does it have a downside to it?
Of course, I think that there's always the innovator's dilemma. How do you actually make sure that incumbency doesn't breed a sense of complacency? And how do you continue pushing the envelope to not just allow clients to benefit the most from the technologies that they use today, but indeed continue to innovate and create the future technologies that will be important of tomorrow? That's one of the things that IBM, both here locally and around the world, are exceedingly proud about. Continued over, I think it's now 3 decades, we lead the world in terms of patent activity with the new innovations and technologies that we're designing. Often, when I speak with clients and partners, they think that a lot of that work is exclusively happening in North America, but we're very proud to see Australia actually standing up and contributing to that body of work and the technological developments. One key call out is in the Gold Coast. We have one of our cybersecurity development centres where we have a team of technologists that are actually working on some emerging technologies in the fields of identity management and security and access. And then indeed in Canberra, one of our global Linux technology centres that are developing new hosting platforms for some of the world's most critical infrastructure are based also here in Australia.
Okay. So I think that's all wonderful, but how do you do it? I mean, is it a cultural question?
It very much is. IBM has always and will always be defined, in my sense, by the IBMer, the IBM employee. And what I mean by that, it's that sense of curiosity and that it's that sense of inquisitiveness about, well, let's deeply understand clients' and partners' challenges. Let's understand what technologies are available today. And let's also pause to consider what technologies do we need to invent to overcome the challenges and the issues that they may be facing. And having worked here for well over 16 years, it really is that curiosity and how the corporation's contributions are brought to life by the employee that I think makes us unique in the industry and indeed as a global corporation.
It's kind of an unfair question, but is there a trick to it? How do you keep, when you're such a big organisation, How do you get to the point where you're taking out more patents than any other company? Part of it is size, obviously, right? But, you have some really big competitors out there, yet you can still get people to come in on a Monday morning and think a bit differently.
It's probably two things, Sean, that I would say compel that. So, firstly, it is culture. It is what really we value. So, the corporation's most senior leadership, from Arvind on down, they value above all else client service and solving client issues and client challenges. But I think also it's our clients that we have to thank for this unique advantage. They afford us the opportunity to truly work on some of society and indeed the world's most pressing and unique challenges. And I think it's the combination of those two that is the secret sauce. So it's that natural inquisitiveness and spirit of collaboration that's fueled by the corporation's leadership around what behaviours and outcomes do they value most. And that drives, of course, where people spend their time and dedicate their energy. But it's really brought to life by the client's trust to allow us to work on some of those unique challenges.
Stay with me, Nicholas. We'll be back in a minute. I'm speaking to Nicholas Flood, Vice President, IBM Technology and Managing Director of IBM Australia. Okay, so what's the focus for IBM now and going forward?
Well, as you referenced in the outset, we've been incredibly well placed to actually not just apply some of the world's technologies, but indeed invent them over multiple timeframes. And it really is from that position of knowing legacy IT that we believe that we can make unique contributions to take clients to desired future-ready state. There's really two key focus areas within IBM right now. It's hybrid cloud and also artificial intelligence.
Okay, so let's explain hybrid cloud.
Hybrid cloud to me really comes down to choice. How can IBM, through our technologies, allow a client to be in a position of power and one of choice, where they're not forced into a particular roadmap or set of technologies, but they're positioned in a position of centrality and power where they can remove platform selection from underpinning commercial discussions, and they can actually choose what platforms are best for them in their unique context. If I illustrate a particular example, one thing that IBM have observed, indeed the whole industry have observed over really the last 2 decades, is the rise of hyperscale cloud platforms. So many clients have looked to the promise that comes from being all in on the public cloud, but with the benefit of a couple of years of lived experience, are now seeing that perhaps that strategy isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. And they're actually seeing that there are some workloads that do need to benefit from the unique characteristics and qualities that would come from an on-premise deployment. So behind their own firewall, within, in many cases, their own data center. But what IBM really are talking about is that middle ground. How can we separate this all or nothing approach and enable new pathways for clients to actually choose what is best for the particular workload, the particular set of circumstances that they face in that context? There's a set of factors, Sean, that I think have particularly brought this to the fore. And one of them that we experience is the changing geopolitical situation and, in fact, Australia's evolving place in the world. And I think that that's really bringing to the fore the value and the merits of seeking a hybrid cloud approach.
Okay, artificial intelligence. So actually, can you give me your definition of artificial intelligence? I think we all kind of know what artificial intelligence is, sort of. But what's your definition of it and how's IBM working on that?
Yeah, well, it's a really good question you pose. And I don't believe that there is a uniform definition to artificial intelligence that exists. For me, it's really around how can you use computing capability to augment the role of humans to make sure that we're making organisations more efficient, processes more streamlined for end users, customers, citizens, so that everyone can enjoy the benefits of technology at a greater scale while realising a greater level of optimisation in traditional workflows.
Okay, so I need to finish up here, but I just want to ask you about the pandemic. I mean, a human tragedy, and let's hope we don't have to do this again ever. There are some technology companies, though, particularly, and they're kind of the big ones who have always had strong cash flows and strong business models, who probably have benefited from it, at least in a business sense.
Sean, I think IBM's incumbency across those critical industries, banking, government, insurance, airlines and transportation providers, all of those industries were deeply impacted by the pandemic. But for me, it really came back to trust. IBM were able, because we play such a significant role in enabling those industries, to lean into the problems that we saw emerging to ensure that those responses, whether it was getting critical payments into the hands of those that needed it most, whether it was helping banks ensure the liquidity of organisations through the digital platforms that draw upon IBM's technology or consulting capabilities, that we were able to really lean into those problems. One of the big things that IBM have always been about is making a contribution way beyond the bottom line and ensuring that our contributions felt positively within the communities that our employees and our clients and our partners inhabit. And I was absolutely so pleased to see the culture come to life in that critical period of need for people, the community, and indeed Australia.
Nicholas, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Absolute pleasure, Sean. Thank you very much.
That was Nicholas Flood, Vice President, IBM Technology and Managing Director of IBM Australia. This is a Fear and Greed Daily interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.